Okay, so the next thing, of course, is before Pesach is B'dikas Chametz. So we're going through here the Sefer on Pesach of Avigdor Nebental, so lang is stark. And he said B'dikas Chametz Matarosa Kefula. There's two reasons why we check for the chametz. One is you shouldn't find any on Pesach, and he'll be over Bali Roya Bali Motzei. And at the time the base of Migdash there was a third lav of you can't check the chametz Pesach if you've got any chametz in your reshus. There's a shochet a chametz dam zivchi. Then of course the other reason is shelo yavoyu la'ochlei b'Pesach. You shouldn't anywhere where realistically in your house you could find a kazayis of chametz, you got to check for it. Now it's very, very interesting this, because we know the main mitzvah of B'dikas Chametz, of course, is the night before Pesach. So I remember hearing over 30 years ago from Rabbi Falz, Zechron Livracha. He said an amazing thing. He said a house in the time of Chazal would have been one room, maybe two rooms. One where they lived and they cooked and they ate, and one where they slept, if that. Maybe it was in one room, maybe with a curtain in it. So he said a house that big can be checked entirely on Leil B'dikas Chametz, the 14th of Pesach, of Adism. He said, but nowadays a house, a 4, 5, 6 bedroom house, there's no way you could check such a large house just on Erev Pesach. Impossible. So he said, the Maisa is women don't wait till the last minute, yeah, and pretty much they leave. The house is well and truly done long before Pesach. But he said he recommended leaving one room which is manageable, to leave that to just before Pesach. So just before Pesach, he said, and that you do a proper B'dikas Chametz ketakonos Chazal, like Chazal told us to do. So that's one thing. Another thing he said, very important, is people like to get very nostalgic with candles and feathers and wooden sticks and whatever. Lemaisa, you can't do B'dikas Chametz nowadays with a candle, because you'd be terrified where you put it. It could catch fire on carpet, it could catch fire in a house. In the old days, a house was an earthenware floor and a stone wall, and there was no other source of light, so they used to use candles. He said, but realistically nowadays, you're not going to go cricking in corners with a candle. You're going to be nervous to do a proper B'dika. So he recommended, he said, Lemaisa, you get especially now with LED torches, even better, with a very, very strong concentrated light. He said, Lemaisa, you're going to do a better B'dika with a powerful torch. And he said, Lemaisa, that's what's going to happen. You'll do it better with a torch. But Lemaisa, all kids learn in school about the feather and the candle and everything, which is how it was always done, because it could be done. And so I don't know whether you combine the two, do a little bit with the candle and feather so you can see it, and don't forget the ancient minhag. But Lemaisa, being realistic, you're not going to go cricking in your house in every corner, every little thing with a candle. Unless you're very careful, maybe you get a tinfoil thing around it in case it drips, whatever. But Lemaisa, he said,
just to go with the LED light.
He said use a powerful torch. He said with a strong concentrated beam. He said that will do. You'll pick up anything if there is anything. Now don't forget as well, it's a very interesting thing. You're not actually looking for crumbs. Lemaisa, if you do find crumbs, we sweep them up. Whatever. Very unusual if a woman has left anything behind in the house. Very, very rare nowadays to find. 1 year, it was very funny. Behind a book cupboard for the kids, I found a whole Weetabix. And I was so happy at last. I found something proper. And then I found my little 5-year-old boy and hidden it there. Yeah, he did it on purpose. Because we don't have the minhag of putting out 10 pieces, but he'd learned about the minhag or whatever, and he wanted to make sure I found something. So he hid the Weetabix there. So here I was thinking, at last I've done a proper B'dikas Chametz. But it was a sting operation. Yeah, he planned it all out. Okay, so he says now, he said you have to check everywhere, even where there's may not be a kazayas of chametz. But Lemaisa is a place where you take chametz during the year. So if during the year it's derech putting autumn la'ochlei, afshe ein by kazayas. So anywhere where you take chametz during the year, for example, a biscuit. After main by kazayas, now a regular biscuit by and large probably hasn't got a kazayas. But if this is a part of the house where you take biscuits during the year and eat the biscuits, then that area needs bedikas chametz. Okay, so he says yesh livda b'kom sheyesh ben piruri chametz im alulim edu lipol l'toicha oichel shel Pesach. He said the idea of searching for crumbs, which are less than a kazayis, is only if there's a chashash they could fall into food on Pesach, because a crumb on Pesach is important. Like normally surim, you need a kazayis, you need a shear, but Pesach is chametz also b'mashu. So the idea of looking for crumbs was only if those crumbs could get into food. I'll tell you a story. It happened with me once. I got some matzah meal before Pesach, and my wife was making canadles, and it was the not kosher Pesach matzah meal had been put on a Pesach shelf. So I didn't think to look, and I bought it, and my wife made the canadles, and then I noticed on the packet it said it's not kosher Pesach.
It's gebrot.
So that's even better. I did that lachis. Oh yeah. Right? Not for dummy. No, don't not for dummy. But so the mice was all before Pesach. So the matzahs you can eat them, not a problem. Long before Pesach. And the pot you cash it. It's easy. You cash it. Not a problem. It was easily rectifiable. But mistakes can happen. You'd be surprised what mistakes can happen. So. Even if it's an area of the house where you don't take chametz, but if you've got kids in the house, kids will take chametz everywhere. And the more you warn them, the more you try and not get to them. Yeah, they hide it under the pillows, they hide it in their beds, the midnight feast area. Yeah, you remember the midnight feast? You hid all the nash. Yeah, so kids will take it everywhere. So with the little kids in the house, pretty much the whole house needs checking because they will get it everywhere. Chazal even say, the Gemara Pesachim says that children make a bigger mess than a chulda, than a weasel. If an animal takes a piece of bread, it'll eat it all up. It won't break into crumbs. But a kid is mafara. He'll crumble it. It'll go everywhere. So l'maisa with little kids in the house, everywhere in the house is suspect of chametz arriving there. Now, it's something interesting though. If you are good about it, you can actually make your house, or most of your house, a makom she'ein machnisim by chametz. If you take a makpid all year, keep chametz to the kitchen and the dining room. So take ben adin, that's all it needs checking. If you know you've kept it all year. Now I have a chaver. I used to live with a mall, and I went down to his house to Shabbos to learn, and he offered in his front room, wasn't his dining room, it was his front room. He offered me a lemon tea, and he said, "I'd love to give you a piece of cake." He said, "But I can't give you one." So, no, I wanted a piece. So I said, "Why not?" He said, "My wife doesn't let me take any chametz out of the kitchen or the dining room. Ad kidei kach." He said, "Mama's all year round." He said, "She's macking on it, so there's less of a thing to clean up for Pesach."
People have trauma from the pressure before Pesach. Some people have trauma from Pesach the whole year.
It seems to me, yeah, it was incredible. It really was. It was no about him. He couldn't give me a piece of cake in his front room because his wife didn't want any chametz. He's a very good husband. I mean, Leo's got his story bevesa. He was very good about it. But it was quite amazing. I actually saw this halakha in practice. Yeah. Right. Fine. Yeah. Okay. Now this is very interesting. He mentions it here on Leil Pesach. Now. Some people like, okay, there's different argument on the hand-baked, the machine-baked, whatever. So machine-baked is quite rare to find it. On hand-baked, unless you made it yourself so you know what you made, if you're buying a Komimis or these very chashuv Ukraine matzahs, which apparently are due to land in the country soon, pending for customs inspections. In fact, this year you should check them because there might be leaked cognac on the boxes.
No, it might be leaked from the beers.
Or Gold Swan beer, what's it called? Yeah, it's very interesting. You're supposed to actually check your matzahs for if there's any big bumps on them or kfula, slightly folded. So of course it's not a place where you bring chametz to you. You keep chametz well away from your boxes of matzah. He said, but the ma'aseh is if it's kfula or nefucha, which has got a din of chametz, it's because it's not been baked properly. Yeah, the fire couldn't get to it. So that's chametz. I think it's chametz gomor. So you check your matzahs when you get your matzahs ready for Seder night, or maybe the night before, whatever. you should have a look over to make sure your hand baked are properly flat and are okay for use. That's what I'm saying. Not the Ukrainian one. Yeah. So but you'd be surprised. Let me tell you something. Any when it comes to Pesach, there's a famous joke. You know, Mishnichas Adar, Marbim B'Simcha, Mishnichas Nissen, Marbim B'Chumras. Yeah. Lemaisa, the Klal Yisrael has always been very stark on Pesach. Right, the last two mitzvahs a Yid gives up is Bris Milah and Seder night. They're the last two things he gives up. Very interesting. They're the two mitzvahs I say Sheyesh Boi Koris. Right? Connected to it, right? Come Pesach is a mitzvah I say, right? So Pesach's connected, very much connected to Koris, and of course Bris Milah. No, Bris Milah is very, very interesting. They are the last two things the Yid gives up. They'll give it on Kippur and Shabbat. Everything will go first, but those things they'll hold on to. I remember as a kid, I can't remember how it happened. My mother met two Jewish American students. Maybe it was one. Believe it or not, of all places, in Bangor University. What she was doing in Bangor University, I have no idea. And how she got to Manchester, I can't remember. And how my mother met her, I have no idea. But I remember my mother invited her for Seder night. That I do remember. I think she even came from a Reform family. So she knew about Seder night. She knew about it. And she came and she dressed very sneezely and she participated and she listened. Very balanced derech eretz. And Chol Hamoed, she went back to Bangor. Anyway, after Yom Tov, she phoned my mother and she said, Mrs. Schwalbe, I just want to let you know that for the rest of Passover, I didn't drink any beer and I didn't eat any biscuits. So you see, Pesach resonates deep down in the Yiddish neshama. Because that's Lamaisa, the Yom Tov when we became Klal Yisrael. That's the night of Yetzias Mitzrayim was when we became the Am Hashem, Avdei Hashem. And deep down in the Yiddish neshama, it's banging away. Leil Seder bangs away as this is the beginning of our connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So when they're giving it up, it's the last thing to give up. It's the last thing to give up. It's incredibly. So therefore, all the chumras we've got on Pesach. So some sound funny. I'll give you a great one. But the most chumras on Pesach were actually a local problem. And the minute went from that, I'll tell you two very interesting ones. In Germany, they didn't eat chicken on Pesach. So what can be chametz about chicken? So chicken, no, nothing can be chametz about chicken. But chicken feed can be chametz. So the puppets, the stomachs always had chametz chicken feed. So therefore, they didn't eat chicken on Pesach to avoid problems. If you cook it in your kosher Pesach pot, a stomach of a chicken or a whole chicken, it could be problems. So they just kept off chicken for Pesach. In Hungary, this is a brilliant one, they didn't eat cucumbers on Pesach. Now how can you have chametz in a cucumber? The answer is in a cucumber you can't. But in the markets in Hungary, to make it look shiny and attractive in the market, they smeared it with beer. To make the cucumbers look shiny to attract purchasers. So therefore they kept off cucumbers on Pesach because of a chashash or vada chashash of beer. So Hungarians now don't live in Hungary, and today you don't get beer smeared on cucumbers. But the minhag we keep, the rule is you keep the minhag of your country of origin. That's why kitnius nowadays, kitnius was a problem. It was mixing of flour, confusion of flour. If you have kitnius flour and regular flour, average people, ignorant people make mistakes. So therefore, the minhag Ashkenazim not to have kitnius. Okay, so all these minhagim, it's taka strict. But this is the Yom Tov where we go strict. This is the Yom Tov where everybody tries harder, everybody tries more. And I'll tell you two beautiful stories. One that I was involved in, I know it used to be when I was a bacher, the Manchester Basin have to shomer 3 times the amount of milk at Pesach time than during the year. Because people in the wider community who are not makbid the chol of Yisrael during the year, but Pesach, it's got to have action. It's got to be Pesach-diki. It's got to be Pesach-diki, yeah? It's got to be Pesach-diki. That was one thing. And another time I was standing in Tesco a few years ago by the kosher Pesach row. A guy there, blows and cop, with his wife, looking at the food. And he took something off the shelf and said to his wife, "What about this?" And they didn't look to me like the two biggest Lavavov Sadiqim I've ever seen, yeah? And she said, "Is the hechsher okay?" And I was just watching it, I felt so proud. I thought to myself, wow. when it comes to Pesach, it touches everybody. And there she was. Is the hechsher okay? And it didn't look as if, they were looking for the Badat, say the Charetis. Yeah, it didn't quite look at that. But I felt so proud that, every year when it comes to Pesach. So my mother said to me, I remember when I was a kid, she used to say, why Chazal say, Rav Masoros, just like we Benisan, Nigalu in Mitzrayim, Benisan, Asidin Ligol. It's going to happen on Pesach. So my mother said, because every year tries harder. Every year, the whole of Klal Yisrael tries harder. Kosh Baruch Hu says, that's the time to redeem Klal Yisrael, when they're all trying a bit extra. That's what she always used to say to me as a kid. And I think there's a lot of mileage in that. I think it's very true. So if she's listening, ma'am, that's one of yours. Right. She listens every night, by the way. Okay. Now, the question is like this. If you do have a big house or a large area, can you split up with your family to, everyone go into a different room? So, he said, he's a Talmud, Nebenzahl is a Talmud of Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. So he said he heard from his Rebbe, Rav Shlomo Zalman, he wasn't happy in delegating it to your kids or whatever to go and check a room. He said, because Lamaisa to do B'dikas Chometz is takes a lot of effort, and can you rely on a child or your daughters to do it? He said he wasn't so happy about this. He said because when something's a Torah Godel, it really needs somebody over Bar Mitzvah to do it, to rely on it. So he said, if however it's a place where the women have cleaned the house for Pesach already, so really it's probably no chometz there at all, and that's quite easy to check. He says then you could do it. Then you could do it. He said, because at the end of the day, he said, B'dikas Chometz only midrabanan. Torah, once you make it, you say Kol Chamira v'Chamia, and certainly if you're selling it, Torah, it's not yours. So the Chiv B'dikas is midrabanan. So he said, in such a case where the house is broadly very, very clean, ready for Pesach, then you can rely on them. So tomorrow night we'll do about somebody who's travelling away before Pesach. Has he got a Chiv B'dikas on the house where he's not going to be there at all over Pesach? So tomorrow night we'll go through some of the halachas of that. Okay, so we started yesterday, we were talking about Shabbos and how Shabbos is so special, even building the Mishkan, which was needed as a kapara for the Egel. They weren't allowed to do it on Shabbos. And one of the reasons is, the Gemara says, if somebody keeps Shabbos properly, even if he served Avodah Zarah, like the generation of Enosh, where they were the first generation in history to serve Avodah Zarah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will forgive him. It brings Ashrei in the Haftorah we learn on the fast day. Ashrei Enosh Yaseh Zois. Happy is a man who's strong in this area. It says Shomer Shabbos Mechalaloi. He keeps Shabbos from profaning it. So Chazal say Shomer Shabbos Mechalaloi can be split. Mocholoi. Hashem will forgive him for all his sins. So the Chavis Chaim in Shem Olam, he says something very beautiful. He said, why if someone keeps Shabbos, even if he served Avodah Zarah like the generation of Enosh, Hashem will forgive him. And he says, what was the Avodah Zarah in the generation of Enosh? They thought, it can't be that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who's so great, would involve himself with the affairs of man. This world is so low and so remote from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he has nothing to do with it, and he's delegated it all to the sun, the moon. He's delegated. There's no Hashgacha Pratis. But then it was only one stage further to start worshipping the sun and the moon. Yeah? The first generation acknowledged that Hashem made the sun and the moon, and then they're his ambassadors in this world. The next generation forget Hashem and just worship the Avodah Zarah. He says, but says the Chavis Chaim, really, their Avodah Zarah was they didn't believe in Hashgacha Pratis, not that they didn't believe in Hashem. He says somebody who keeps Shabbos properly, so he believes that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world in 6 days, and he rested on the 7th day, so he believes in the Creator. The other reason for Shabbos is to remember Yetzias Mitzrayim. Yetzias Mitzrayim, who took us out? Hashem personally took us out. Hashem says, Sicha, Me'eretz Mitzrayim. So if you believe, keeping Shabbos means you do believe in Hashgacha Pratis. So therefore, even if prior to this he served Avodah Zarah, like the generation of Enosh, who didn't believe in Hashgacha Pratis, but somebody who keeps Shabbos properly, he's now showing he really does believe in it, so therefore he'll be forgiven. He'll be forgiven for that sin. He's rectified that sin by keeping Shabbos properly. So now it makes a lot of sense why you can't build the Mishkan on Shabbos. Because what was the Mishkan for? It was to rectify the sin of the Egel. They served Avodah Zarah, and the tikkun for that was to build the Mishkan. But if that tikkun the Mishkan is to fix the Aveira of Avodah Zarah, Shabbos does the same thing. So you don't need to build the Mishkan on Shabbos. keeping Shabbos will do the same job, so you can carry on building it during the week, and you're not missing out anything, because keeping Shabbos has the same impact on you. It purifies the Yiddish neshama from dodgy emunah, dodgy ideas, and it implants in him emunah and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It does exactly the same thing as what the Mishkan did, and therefore there's no need to build the Mishkan on Shabbos. Now, this is a very, very interesting debate. If somebody is in Gehenna, where's Gehenna? Everyone's got their definition of what's Gehenna in life.
It says on Hazaisim, man.
Right, so one of the entrances in Hazation, yeah. So do they come out on Shabbos? What happens to the Rishoyim in Gehenna on Shabbos? Go on, Eddie.
They don't get punished except for them.
Right, so the one thing I heard that Eddie said, it depends whether they kept Shabbos down here. If they kept Shabbos down here, but they still got to go to Gehenna for other reasons, they rest on Shabbos. Now, do you know why on Motzei Shabbos we say V'hinayam, and there's a minute to say V'huracham slowly, and schlep out Ma'ariv Motzei? Why is Ma'ariv Motzei Shabbos longer than any Ma'ariv of the week? So the Torah in Hilchos Shabbos, Reish Sadi Hey, he brings from the Gainim and earlier, he said because till Klal Yisrael finish davening on Motzei Shabbos, Shabbos is technically not ended, and the Rishoyim don't go back to Gehenna till the last minyan in Klal Yisrael has finished Ma'ariv Motzei Shabbos. So Klal Yisrael therefore came up with a good idea. Let's slap out Ma'ariv a bit longer. Let's make it a longer Ma'ariv, and the Nebuchadnezzar and the Shamas in Gehenna will have a bit of a longer reprieve. Now, also in the Shem Olim, in the same chapter, the Chavetz Chaim brings, he says, so that means they're taken out before Shabbos as well, before Shabbos comes in, which is maybe part of the reason why we have Tosefes Shabbos. You add on a bit at the beginning, a bit at the end. Also, same idea. Schlep out Shabbos a bit longer, and these neshamas get a break for longer. So he says, so when does Shabbos start? So he brings here, Shamati Shen said, it depends when you started getting ready in your home for Shabbos. So if you lay the table Friday morning, so Shabbos starts Friday morning, Hachanos for Shabbos. So whenever you start preparing for the coming Shabbos, that's when they'll take that guy out of Gehenna if he's in Gehenna, that's when his neshama can come out in preparation for Shabbos, when they get a day off. So, to me, it makes sense. If you Motzei Shabbos, you go to Tesco's and buy your lemonade for next Shabbos, yeah, then you got a sure get out of jail free card, yeah, the Chayra. But Yitaka brings it, it's a serious thing. He says, the Nechshev Le'isha was man Shabbos Me'esha Hiskal Be'erev Shabbos when he began L'isasek B'Sarchei Shabbos. Okay. Therefore, he says, Al Kei Ma'od Sarich L'Ishtadil B'Inyan Sarchei Shabbos V'Yitah. Therefore, the Chavetz Chaim says, you see how important it is to start getting your house ready for Shabbos. What a bonus! Never mind in this world, but in the world to come, what a bonus it could be. Now he brings a Zohar here, but I found an amazing medrash. Listen to this medrash. Amar Rav Huna, Afilu harashoyim shebi Gehenna, even the wicked in Gehenna, muchtarim heim b'yom HaShabbos, they get the crown of Shabbos as well. V'shoiktim b'noichim, and they rest on Shabbos. The Amar Rav Huna, ein lecha roshim yisol she'ein le'maisim tovim. He said even the biggest Rosh has done some good in his life. The ma'alya lehu la'alma da'asi, which will help him in the world to come. What benefit will he get from his maisim tovim? The aim of saying ma'alya lehu b'yom HaShabbos liyos muchtarim b'kes Shabbos. Now, listen to this. Amar Rabbi Yosi said, what about those who down here openly broke Shabbos? You're telling me they're going to get out of Shabbos? They're going to get off. In Olam Haba they're going to keep Shabbos. Down here they never kept Shabbos. In Olam Haba they're going to keep it. Listen to this. He asked Rav Huna this question. How can it be?
He said the Rishon will not even get there anyway.
Listen to this. Well, that's another thing as well. Assuming they got there, yeah? So Amar lo Rav Huna. He said, yeah. He said, what happened with the Mon on Erev Shabbos? How many portions of Mon did they pick up? Double. Why did they pick up two, Eli? One for Friday, and one for Shabbos. Listen to this. He says, on Friday, the Rishoyim asked to be punished double in Gehenna. So what they would have got on Shabbos, they get it on Friday, so they can come out on Shabbos. They've already been punished what they would have got on Shabbos. Quite shouldn't it? He says, Lekach nidoinim or Rishonim b'yom hashishi mishneh. They get a double punishment on Friday. Laharviach lehem b'yom Shabbos, so they can come out and rest on Shabbos. He said, Shabbos is called Sholom v'lo nigla, it's complete day. He said whether a person's good. He said ben tzaddikim ben Rishonim. Or lahoros, this teaches us. Shaloi lechinam amar Torah. It's not for nothing. The Torah says, or shemartem es Shabbos. Guard the Shabbos down here. V'his hira al yom Shabbos. This is the one mitzvah the Torah warns us. We mentioned yesterday 3 times it says shmira, more than any other mitzvah in the Torah, because the benefit of this mitzvah is so big, it's bigger than any other mitzvah. It's in this world, and the person carries the schar in the next world as well. As if he kept the whole Torah. And then we mentioned again yesterday, Shabbos pumps kedusha into Klal Yisrael. So the Mechilta says how? He says, people ask, why is his shop closed? And the answer is because he's keeping Shabbos. Why is Pliny not working today? Because he's keeping Shabbos. He said it's just such a special mitzvah. He said that's why the Torah warns more than any other mitzvah. The word shmira is singled out on this mitzvah. It's such a special mitzvah to keep. I mentioned yesterday, yeah. Truth is, you got to learn Hilchos Shabbos. There's no real shortcut. I remember Rafal used to say, so he was famous for Hilchos Shabbos. Yeah, that was his 50 odd years. He gave shir on Hilchos Shabbos. He used to quote over. He said, Lamaisa, he would say, he said, most of us we know about Muksa, that's quite a fairly easy one, and various things. He said, but things like Boira and Bishul, you've got to be careful. You've got to be very careful. In the Jewish homies, he used to always talk about Boira and Bishul. So many malachas, like weaving or whatever, you might never come across, many malachas. He said, he said, you've got to learn the halachas. And today, I mean, it's unbelievable what you can get today. The Sfarim on Hilchos Shabbos, but that's what Shmartim es Shabbos. The guarding of Shabbos is to make sure we know what to do, what not to do, and anything you can do in increasing your knowledge of Hilchos Shabbos, your Shmir Shabbos goes with it. It'll be enhanced beyond belief, really. But you realise it's not that hard. And I'll tell you another thing as well. Because Baruch Hashem, I think we've all grown up in houses where Shabbos was kept as a kid. You don't realise how much you keep your Shabbos without realising it. You don't realise it. It's such an automatic training, the way we grew up and the way we sort of. I often think about it. A Shabbos party. A Shabbos party with a kid resonates very powerfully with a child. So kids love Nash, and they associate Nash with Shabbos, and therefore Shabbos is associated with an enjoyable time. You'll be surprised that never, ever goes away from you. It never goes away. If you want to see proof that on Shabbos you got on the Neshama Yisrael, we actually mentioned in the Pasuk here in a minute. If you want to see how people are different on Shabbos, you go to any shul you want, you can see this. On a normal weekday after Ma'ariv, how do people leave the shul? Evening, off they go. Yeah? Comes Friday night, people stop, they schmooze, they stay in shul longer. You can see B'chush, they're different. You can see clearly they're different. Right? They walk home slowly, they might go meet people, you don't normally meet during the week. You can see B'chush, the way people are acting, they're different. You can see clearly on Shabbos there's a Neshama Yisera. It's quite incredible.
Or
now
relaxed.
Rashi says, sorry?
You're relaxed.
You can see it, B'chush. Now some say that's why you sleep twice on Shabbos. Friday, because you got 2 Neshamas to sleep for. That's what some say. The B'nai Sosra says it. But I'll tell you something what Rashi says. Do you know why you get a Neshama Yisera? Listen to this Rashi. What's a Neshama Yisera? Roichav Leiv, like a broad mind, limenucha, to rest, or simcha, to rejoice, v'lios pasuach l'revacha, to take it all in. Your mind that opens up. Listen to what Rashi says. V'yoichal v'yishta, so you can eat plenty and drink plenty, v'ein nafshay kotzolov, and you won't get fed up from it. You can't eat what you eat on Shabbos, you couldn't eat during the week. You couldn't do it. Even though there's our Thursday night, it's not the same. Not the same quantity, certainly, usually. Right? It's an incredible thing. It's you're a bigger person. You're a bigger person, so like a bigger person can absorb more, his mind is available to take more. So, physically, Rashi says, the amount you eat on Shabbos, what you enjoy on Shabbos, you need a Neshama Yisera to enjoy it. Now, so there's a big debate. So we have B'somim, Motzei Shabbos, because the Neshama Yisera goes away. So your Neshama's upset, he's lost his best mate. So you cheer it up with a nice smell. With B'somim, you cheer up the Neshama. So the question is, what about Motzei Yom Tov? What about Motzei Yom Tov? Why don't we make Havdalah with B'somim on Motzei Yom Tov? So I heard a very beautiful pshat. It's really beautiful. It says Shabbos. We know the Kedusha Shabbos comes automatically. Hashem sends it to the world. Erev Shabbos comes into the world, and Motzei Shabbos it goes away. So it's a gift. It's a gift. It comes and it goes, and you're upset when it goes. You enjoy it while it's there, and you're upset. But Yom Tov, Klal Yisrael decides. We put the effort in when Yom Tov's going to be. Basically, decide there's an extra day in the month or a leap year, and that's Kaveh the Yom Tovim. When you put the work in, it never goes away. When you put the effort in, it never goes away. So Kedusha's Yom Tov, we have to manufacture Kedusha's Yom Tov. When you put the effort in, so it doesn't go away. What's Yom Tov? It stays with you. There's no reason to have Besamim. Whereas the Kedusha Shabbos, which comes automatically and also leaves, so there you need to cheer your neshama from the missing neshama Yisera. I saw another pshat this week. I was looking around. It said, why is it called? Yeah, why is it on there for Motzei Shabbos? All of a sudden, how did it go? Yeah, it says why on Motzei Shabbos. It needs this. So that's right. Yeah, the sadness is that you can't hold on to it. You know, a Nazir, when he finishes his Nazirus, has to bring a Korban Chatos. What's he done wrong? He's fulfilled the big mitzvah. He kept the 30 days off the wine and off everything. So why is he bringing a Korban Chatos? What sin has he done? Says the Ramban, if you go up a Madrega, you should stay there. Don't come down. Stay up there. It's a sin to come down in the Madrega back to normal living. You've shown you're capable of living at a higher level. Therefore, there's a Chatos coming down. So the same thing here as well. On Shabbos, when we go up a level, it shows what we're capable of. So therefore, the neshama is really, really depressed. What's Shabbos? Why have I not held on to that level of Shabbos and go a step higher? And next Shabbos even a step higher. He said, so therefore, he said, the neshama taka gets upset. He said, it's not just a moshel, it's taka real. Because it's shown now what it's capable of, and therefore it needs cheering up, the bracha of the Besamim to cheer it up. That's what I found one of the Farshim said it says it here. Okay. So it says, Sheish Yom Yeyasa Melacha. 6 days work may be done. Shabbos Shabbos and Kodesh Hashem. Shabbos is for Hashem. So one of the Mepharshim says, Rashi says in fact, Shemiras Kedushasa Lishmi Uvimitzvasi. On Shabbos it's very tempting to rest because you're exhausted. Which is not wrong, nothing wrong with that. But it's a very mundane reason to enjoy Shabbos. I'm formatted from 6 days work, so therefore I'm gonna rest on Shabbos. So the Torah says elevate it. Your thoughts should be higher than that. It should be Kodesh LaHashem. You want to sanctify it like you build the base of Mikdash VaKadosh Baruch Hu. You're keeping Shabbos. It says Rashi says Shemiras Kedushasa Lishmi Uvimitzvasi. Okay, now it's very hard. I mean, it's a very interesting thing. This, I mean, in concepts of kedusha, like you've got kohanim. Kohanim have got intrinsically more kedusha. So it seems to me the Torah expects us of a similar idea that you've got to focus your mind on kedusha Shabbos and lock into it. Now, the way to lock into it, of course, is being shomer the Shabbos. But I think it's very, very much like we mentioned yesterday about the way we talk on Shabbos, what we talk about on Shabbos. That's really, really, really where you see whether you're locking into Kedusha Shabbos or not. We mentioned yesterday, it's tough. It really is tough, right? But the Maisa, there you'll see whether you're just resting, you're just taking it easy, or really whether you're actually active in Kedusha Shabbos. You'll see that in the way you talk on Shabbos. Now, it needs preparation. It needs preparation. I must say something very interesting. There's a very big mitzvah. Not many people do it. To learn every week the parasha Shnai Mikra, the Echad Targum. You're supposed to go through the Seder every week twice here with Targum, and ideally with Rashi. Because Rashi's explaining. Right? If you can't manage Rashi, so you do Targum. But ideally with Rashi as well. Now, I'm sure, I'm convinced, it's Zichar. If a person actually does that, manages to learn every week the Chumash Rashi, your Shabbos table will be different. Because you'll think of a question or an answer or a very interesting Rashi catches your imagination, you'll say it over the table. No question about it. Because that's the table talk. That's that week's Sedra. I'm vazichad that just keeping that mitzvah, besides the mitzvah Talmud Torah in its own right, but the benefit is that the week then on Shabbos when you're going to lay this Sedra, it comes to life with Rashi and you'll talk about it. You'll say to somebody, I saw Rashi this week and I had a kasha on it. he might give you a terrace. You might have a terrace yourself. It's phenomenal. I find this. Rabbi Kubitz Zechon told me this. He said every year when he does Shnai Mikra, he said he spotted something in the Sedra, and he said, where was this posuk last year? He told me this. He told me this. Every year he noticed this. And the time you talk about Chumash Rashi is usually, or the Sedra, especially, you know, if the family's around, is on Shabbos. Now I'll tell you an interesting story. I did it for a while. I used to send out to all the parents in school. I used to give it to the secretary by email. She would forward it to all the parents. I used to go on Torah.org, and there they got Mamash Gavaldig Eschayra there from all speakers in America, but all Americans. A lot of it's based on the Sedra. And I used to send it out, and the purpose was simply the parents maybe not haven't got time during the week that they should say over Dvar Torah to their kids at the Shabbos day. It was sent to the parents, it wasn't sent to the kids. It was sent to the parents, and the feedback we got was fantastic. It was fantastic because it enhances, it lifts up the Shabbos table so much. If the talk has got kedusha with it, it locks into the kedusha of Shabbos, and it's just ein adoma. Ein adoma. The what we can gain out of a Shabbos, and what we miss the opportunity if we just schmooze it away and battle it away. I'm not giving mussar here. I'm just as a chizuk. I know myself. If I prepared myself a little bit, the Shabbos table is completely different. The Zmiris, I don't know why or what. I can't explain it. It's a mitzvah, but it needs a bit of preparation, and especially if you've got little kids at the table or you've got guests at the table. Very, very easy to spend hours. Hours can fly by when you're enjoying yourself. Hours fly by. So those hours can be filled with meaningful talk, or it can be a battle of the Shabbos, a wasted opportunity. But here the Torah is telling us, keep the Kedusha of Shabbos, keep that atmosphere of Kedusha going, because that's really what Shabbos is all about. And then it finishes off, Shabbos, last is the Shabbos, the Derosham, Bris Olam, Beinu Vein B'nei Yisrael, Oisi Le'olam. The Torah promises, very rare to get this in the Torah, a promise that Shabbos will always be kept by Klal Yisrael. And I'll tell you what the Mechilta says, unbelievable Mechilta. It says, any mitzvah which Klal Yisrael gave their lives for it, were Moshe Nefesh for it, they've still got it today. And it says, for example, Shabbos, Bris Milah, Tvila, and Talmud Torah. Those mitzvahs are still here today. And any mitzvah which they were not Moshe Nefesh for, this is what the Mechilta says. For example, the Beis HaMikdash, Shemitah, and Yovel, we've lost it. Till Mashiach comes, we've lost these mitzvahs. Now this is amazing. So the Beis HaMikdash, we haven't got it because they were not Moshe Nefesh for the Beis HaMikdash. But what part of the Beis HaMikdash do we have today? What's left? One part of the Beis HaMikdash, the Kosel. So why is the Kosel already did remain forever, but the rest of the Beis HaMikdash is gone? Why? Who built it? Who built that wall of the Beis HaMikdash?
No?
Or the Herod?
No.
The foundation of Shlomo Melech's wall is still there. Top bit might have been Herod might have renovated it, but the bottom bit is Mizman Shlomo with the Bais Rishon. So Chazal say that when Shlomo Melech built it, he put the cost of building the Beis HaMikdash on different sections that everyone had to contribute, and the coastal Maravi, he said all the poor people in Klal Yisrael have to pay for that wall. When the poor person gives a donation, that's with Mesiras Nefesh. Because that wall was built with Mesiras Nefesh, it's still here today, still got it. But the rest of the Beis HaMikdash, the Mesiras Nefesh, a donation. They say the Klausenberger Rebbe, he said, how come Antwerp was famous? It was a location, if you wanted to collect stock of any Mossad, you went to Antwerp. Today the diamond's dead, it's gone. So he said to me, very interesting. He said, the Klausenberger Rebbe said it, he said, people gave stocker there, he said, but there was no effort in giving stocker. It was so affluent. It was they were very generous. He said, but there was no oomph in the mitzvah because he said they were doing so well. They were very generous with it, but he said there was no Mesiras Nefesh in the mitzvah stocker. So he said, therefore, it didn't stay with him. Only with Mesiras Nefesh, what you put effort into, through thick and thin, you hold on to it. That remains forever. And here the Torah promises, this mitzvah is going to be there forever. So I have to open Haftach of the Torah because Klal Yisrael, through thick and thin, famous book Sabota, yeah. It's the most inspiring book to read it. Anyway, you got it here, yeah? It's 20 years in Siberia, I think, no? Yeah, it's got it here. If you want to come away this way, there's another one by Rabbi Zilber. Also, a very similar story. Even in Russia, how they were Moshe Nefesh for Shabbos. They used to do shticks in school. They used to cut their finger over here on a Friday, so they came to school with a bandage. Didn't have to write on Shabbos. And then they every shtick in the book they could do to keep Shabbos, they did it. Go here. Oh, was it remember Futterfast? Was it? Yeah. Was it remember Futterfast? Avram Netzer. There you are. Right. It's incredible. There's another famous one. I think Mendel Futterfast. There's another one. There was a lot of them. There's another one called. I can't remember now. But the Russian Yidden who managed to hold on. It was Shabbos was the one thing they had to hold on to. They knew if Shabbos goes, everything's gone. So here it's called. Must be Shabbos in Russian, I suppose. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right, it's phenomenal. But you'll come away from this book, Mesiras Nefesh won't be a problem anymore. But you see what these Yidden have gone through, and we've got all the freedom and all the time in the world. Now, one more thing, just to finish off. Radovi wants to say something to him before we go. If you really want to latch into Shabbos, is you can't come in last minute. To come into Shabbos last minute, it's Tognish. It doesn't work. It doesn't work because, especially winter, summer's a bit easier because you got more time to play with. But in winter, you really have to try and get yourself organised already. So Shabbos is not a last minute panic. If Shabbos is last minute panic, so you leave your house in a panic, your head's in a mess, you come to shores in a mess, you go home in a panic. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And the Eitzah is brilliant at it. He'll send you every distraction, and to do Erev Shabbos. So Erev Shabbos should be a panic. I was very lucky. My father's a kind of bracha. He had an anhogger. He was a dentist. My father was a dentist, and I never quite realised it until I was older. And I might have asked him once about it. He never worked on Erev Shabbos after Chatzos, even in midsummer. Why not? His practice was in Oldham. And one year in winter time, must have been winter time. The M62 was blocked, and he made it home for Shabbos about 5 minutes before Shabbos. So he decided from that day onwards, I'm not risking this again. He never worked after that. This was in the 1960s, I think, it was 1970s. He never worked again on Shabbos after Chatzos. He would come home. This is a plain dentist. Even in midwinter, an hour certainly, and in midsummer, 2-3 hours before Shabbos, he was ready for Shabbos. He'd say Shashirim and he's Le Ramban, his Shnai Mikra, whatever. He would do it. And I grew up in a very, I have to admit, a very, very relaxed Erev Shabbos. Very, very relaxed. So, okay, I'm only one of 5 kids, so it wasn't such a crazy household, but it was very, very relaxed. My wife comes from a much bigger family, and London is a very much more busy place, shall we say. And she was used to, till I sort of trained her out of it a little bit, a very hectic Erev Shabbos. But I couldn't take it. And you'll see, if you can try it, bring your Shabbos, be ready for Shabbos a little bit earlier. You get to shul on time, and you sit there like a mensch, and you maybe look for a Dvar Torah to say or something like that. You'll see, your Shabbos will be uplifted beyond your wildest imagination, and of course, mitzvah geras mitzvah, you'll build on it, and will experience, Be'ez Hashem, a true Kedushas Shabbos.
Take a little cough together, really?
Yes.